aquaculture and any activity, blue economy activities around Lake Victoria and other water bodies in the region. So in this sector, we are seeing a situation where we want to harness and increase productivity of the economic activities coming out of the lake. So what are some of the technological solutions that can be used? I'm short. Thank you. So what are some of the technological solutions that can be deployed or can be used or can be invested in towards driving successful activities within the lake? So we are looking at technologies such as blockchain that can be helped to manage supply chain and fleet management of vehicles or even boats that are hired from time to time to carry out fishing activities. We are looking at solutions that can be helped for geolocation of some of these fishermen whenever they go to the lake and cannot be found, or their phones are not able to be picked from cell towers for search and rescue. But we are also looking at geolocation in terms of mapping out fish movement and any movement of the underwater creatures in terms of just knowing which areas are viable for harvesting and which areas have not remained viable for harvesting. Then we are also looking at automated solutions that can assist with analytics. And this is analytics towards coming up with better fishing activities and also just improving fishing activities within the lake region. Then the other sector that is quite big within Nyanza region would be the agricultural and agro-processing with the presence of sugarcane, sorghum, bananas, and other crops that are being grown at a very low level currently. So in this situation, we'd be looking at agri-tech solutions that would be able to just help with crop monitoring and surveillance. And there we are looking at deploying things such as drones that could be used for crop surveillance and monitoring, and also solutions that are able to map end-to-end of any crop cycle from seed to harvest and understand what are the challenges or what are the benefits of growing certain crops within certain soil regions. Then we are looking at probably harnessing and using blockchain for contract management, for leases that are used on certain lands, for mapping certain land regions, public or private, to enable full utilization of these parcels of land. And then we are also looking at solutions that can help with the supply chain, whether it's app or software or telephone-based, so that we have farmers that are able to connect to markets and buyers that are able to connect to farmers in real time instead of using middlemen. Then also, again, we can use artificial intelligence to just assist in analytics, to foreshadow crop patterns, weather patterns, and also just know in this age of climate change and global warming, what are we looking at in terms of sustainable agricultural farming for Nyanza region. Then the other sector that's quite vibrant, or ought to be vibrant in Nyanza, but has been killed in the past few years, is the manufacturing and industrial sector. So in that sector, we are looking at probably using a lot of robotics and a lot of machine learning and all those sort of technologies to help probably with managing factory work, managing production and managing production lines, as it were, but also to help with diagnostics and also to help with repair of machines. We are also looking at energy solutions that will be able to provide effective energy management and energy use within these particular manufacturing entities. Then also, just based on product and service feedback, analytics to be able to help these organizations come up with customized solutions for their customers. Now, Nyanza region is also one of those areas that's known to be at the forefront whenever healthcare research is concerned. And we have seen enough not-for-profit organizations set up in Nyanza to just do medical research or medical assistance. So healthcare is one of those areas that's slowly leveraging on technology. We are seeing a lot of artificial intelligence being used for diagnostics, where diagnostics can be done by professionals in different countries without really being physically present there. We are also looking at telemedicine, where somebody is able to key in symptoms and diagnostics or prescriptions sent over an app or phone. And we're also looking for accessible and cheap healthcare that can be done by mapping out areas and putting up mobile clinics or virtual clinics that can help residents. So all these things will leverage on technology and technological investments because when you have a healthy nation, then you have a very vibrant working nation. The Nyanza area is also known for its tourism and hospitality. We are talking about lake activities, cultural and heritage sites that are slowly being marketed on social media, but what can push it into gear to make sure that we are getting maximum returns on domestic and international tourism. So we are looking at probably harnessing augmented reality or virtual reality for marketing. We are looking at probably very bespoke analytical marketing that is able to customize travel products for tourists. And we're probably looking at ERP resources for park management, revenue, allocation of maintenance and allocation of staff, and also just allocation of any other resource that may be necessary. Again, all this will require a level of investment if technology is going to drive some of these services to become better offerings and compete globally. Then finally, we are seeing a lot of ICT hubs cropping up regionally. Kisumu, NYANZA is at the forefront of setting up such hubs, and such hubs will be able to accelerate digital disruption because that is where we will see talent, we will see growth that will come from young people being mentored, being trained in these institutions, and this will attract certain things such as data centers being set up locally, and also just cybersecurity and resilience solutions coming up from these young minds. So finally, for the lawyers, and not only lawyers, but for any other professional who will be able to see this or will be at the cusp of this sort of change, what are some of the services or some of the offerings that we foresee being needed from them? So for lawyers, mostly it will be corporate commercial support services where you'll be doing contract management, where you'll be doing a lot of due diligence, setting up companies, helping structure deals, and also helping get compliance and licenses all around. For real estate lawyers, we are looking at a situation where you'll be helping with land advisory and title documents management at the relevant lands offices, and just hopefully being at the forefront of ensuring that investors get clean titles or good titles for where they look to put up their investments. For the lawyers who are in the technology and innovation space, a lot of data privacy work will come up. Also a lot of risk audit, fintech support, and also intellectual property support that will come up whenever you're partnering with these organizations. Again, in terms of policy and legislative drafting, a lot of regulations may need to come up to guide these investments. A lot of investment, a lot of policy change, a lot of research, and a lot of stakeholder engagement, as well as public awareness, will be needed for purposes of just getting buy-in from all stakeholders involved in this investment product, in these investment initiatives. Then finally, with all good relationships, sometimes there'll be setbacks, there'll be fights. So dispute resolution lawyers and litigation lawyers will also be needed to just ensure that there is smoothness within the investment partners and the local market. In conclusion, we are saying that technology and development go hand in hand. Investment, development, economic success must leverage on data, must leverage on technology to be able to drive this region forward. And if that's the case, then legal professionals and all other professionals need to be ready, need to upskill, and need to have appropriate skills that will enable them meet this kind of change and this emerging change halfway to be able to provide competitive services. And with that, I finish my presentation. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Janet. It was a very enlightening presentation. And we will run this program in this manner. The second presenter will make his this second presentation in this session, and then we will open it to panelists. So our second presenter is Joel Onditi. He's the founder and CEO of Pathways International, and he will make a presentation on technology and in artificial intelligence, opportunities for youth and business in the region. So welcome, Joel Onditi, and introduce yourself, and you're most welcome to make your presentation.
Brian? All right, so I'm still waiting for my slides. Brian, do you have my slides? Is Brian there? All right, great. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Brian. All right. Just going to test this quick. Okay, good. All right, thank you very much to the panelists, esteemed panelists. My name is Joel Onditi. I'm the CEO of Pathways International. A bit about my background. I am a Harvard and MIT trained computer specialist with over 18 years in the industry, specifically dealing in the areas of data analytics and AI. I'm also a professor of practice at the University of Denver in the US, where I teach specifically emerging technologies and artificial intelligence. Today I'm going to be talking about NYANZA Rising, leveraging AI and technology for economic transformation, and specifically with the concept of NYANZA and looking at the opportunities that we have here at NYANZA. So if we look at transforming tech and AI, now AI is the buzzword today. The last couple of weeks, I think we've all heard about something called DeepSeek. The last year or so, we've heard about ChatGPT and all these AI good things. So we have to really ask ourselves, how is AI really helping us? Or is it simply a buzzword? A bit of statistics is that tech and AI are really shaping the economies. If we look at the report from the World Economic Forum, as I think a couple of weeks ago, we're looking at future of work in terms of jobs. I think we saw that at the very top, data analytics, AI, machine learning, rank amongst the top skill sets that we're supposed to be building for the future. Now that means something. It means that whatever industry we're in, and I'm glad we had a lawyer speak to us and still talk about AI and analytics, whatever fields we're in, we need to be considering data and AI and how that's impacting our industry. I was talking to a banker yesterday and just going back and forth on how we can leverage AI within the banking space. Now, I think we need to shift our mindset from where technology was for those people and us, these are the people here. I think tech and AI has become ubiquitous in the sense that it is part and parcel of our lives every single day. There's a big fear about AI taking our jobs, and I keep saying no. AI won't take away your job, but somebody using AI will take away their job. So if our lawyer is leveraging AI, she will take away the job of a lawyer that's not leveraging AI. But AI itself won't take our job. In NYANZA, what are the potentials? I believe that based on my research, and I haven't been a part of the ecosystem for a while, but based on my research with the hubs coming up, with the thriving youth, I believe there's a good chance for our young people to take advantage of technology and AI, and I'm going to explain here some of the potential ways that that can happen. So why does tech and AI matter today? From the World Bank statistics, we're seeing that it could add up to 1.2 trillion to the African economy by 2030. I know numbers are always thrown around, but what I do is when I see the numbers, I try to zero in and dig into those numbers. That kind of a number, when you see it, then you need to ask yourself, in your particular industry, how does that trickle down to you? Because these numbers are always aggregated across several industries, several disciplines, several geographical regions. AI is already being used to solve challenges. Like I was saying, yesterday I was speaking to a banker, and already we found a good use case for AI. So in today's world, we need to be thinking about technology and AI and how can it be used to solve challenges. NYANZA is a fertile ground, considering our unique position, right? Sitting right by Lake Victoria, with the 3 countries around us, with a thriving youth population. So we need to be discussing how we leverage these opportunities. The challenges facing NYANZA, youth unemployment, I think that's a no-brainer. We have a very high population of youth without jobs. And so for me, what I'll be asking is, if we're saying that AI is a silver bullet, how can AI solve that problem? I think we need to be asking ourselves that question. Business growth. I think a lot of businesses are facing challenges. That's a no-brainer. I've sat in different breakout sessions, and everyone is talking about how business is challenging, tough economic climate. Again, if tech and AI is the answer, how? Digital infrastructure, lack of access to digital infrastructure, lack of access to, computers, compute power. Just generally accessing digital infrastructure for us to leverage technology and AI. So those are the three key challenges that we identified. Now, how can AI and technology help? Now we get into the how. Again, these are all concepts we're going to put forward. And at the end of this presentation, we'll tell you some of the things that we are already doing. And then we can always, meet on the side and say, how can we partner on some of these initiatives? Job creation. Now, AI has opened up a really high demand in terms of jobs. Now, the good thing is that a lot of these jobs, a lot of these courses, you can actually learn them yourselves. So we have online programs going on, areas like Udemy that are having some of these trainings, right? At Pathways specifically, we are partnering with the government through the TVETs. So we have a partnership, an MOU with KONZA Technopolis, for those who are familiar with KONZA, where we are starting to skill young people in AI. So again, look around you, look at the opportunity, where the opportunity is to train. Currently, we are training at TVETs around Nairobi. So we're at Kabete, we're at Machakos, we're at Masai Technical. And my hope is that we can start having discussions around how do we bring these trainings out to NYANZA, because we do have TVETs in NYANZA. We do have the Jitume labs that have been opened in different TVETs in NYANZA through the program by KONZA. And so the question is, how do we bring these trainings out into the region and start doing these upskilling programs out here? Very high demand for AI roles, whether directly as AI roles or within your specific industries or practices on how to employ AI. And so I think we should all be on the lookout for those. Business competitiveness. Now, AI tools are streamlining operations and expanding markets. I'd like to give you a challenge today. Go online. I work for Homeboys. I am, a videographer, or I am this and that. What AI tools are there for me? And you will be shocked. You will really be surprised what tools are there. I know we know about ChatGPT, but I don't know if any of you knows about Gamma, for example, for making presentations in a split second like this. You prompt it and it gives you a presentation. This slide was made out of Gamma, and it took me like 2 minutes to make this slide, right? So look at a particular industry. Ask yourself, how is AI really helping me? Or how can I leverage AI in my particular industry? So back to businesses. You're a baker, or you are a fisherman, or fisherfolk. That's the right word I'm told nowadays, fisherfolk, right? How can I leverage AI within my particular industry? And you will be surprised. These are not theories. These are practical use cases of AI. Innovation and entrepreneurship, tech startups. I think my previous presenter talked about hubs being set up in the region, tech startups coming up in the region. And for us, it's about use cases. It's one thing to have the hype, and then it's one thing to have a use case. Just last week, we launched a project with one of the SACCOs in Kerugoya. Again, I'm hoping next time it can be a SACCO in NYANZA, on a use case where we are developing a credit scoring engine leveraging AI for farmers. Now, for those of you who are in farming or who are in the ecosystem, you must know that lending to farmers is really, really hard. Farmers barely get loans because they're very risky. And so partnering with GIZ and with Fortune SACCO, we're leveraging AI to aggregate a lot of data around farming and building a credit scoring model where the lender can actually score a farmer accurately and lend to the farmer. So for them, for example, they're in the coffee value chain, the tea value chain, and we've figured out a way to say, if you're a coffee farmer with 2 acres, planting Arabica and blah, 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 here is a score for you based on your historical harvest and whatnot, right? So again, leveraging technology and AI just to figure out how do we grow the business space. And then last but not least, local problem solving. AI solutions for agriculture, I just mentioned one, for healthcare, for fisheries. So again, the challenge to all of us in the audience is go and prompt your search engine, go and query your search engine. How can I leverage AI within my particular industry? Sectors, I think I've mentioned those: agriculture, healthcare, tourism, fisheries, and these are all areas that I'm happy to discuss with anyone who's in the particular sector, and we can deep dive on specific areas that technology and AI could actually help. Preparing the youth for future of work. I think I'll spend a couple of minutes here just because one of the biggest challenges that we know we have is youth unemployment, right? So digital literacy, I mentioned about our G2MEP program, our program together with the government of Kenya and KONZA Technopolis, where we are leveraging the TVETs, and there are TVETs across the country. I think you've been seeing the hype about the president opening these computer centers around the country and saying, Finya computer, pesa itoke, and whatnot, right? So if we forget about the hype and forget about the banter, specifically, we are doing AI upskilling at these TVET centers. Currently, we're running a program with Microsoft to skill about 100,000 Kenyans specifically in AI. But like I said, there's two ways of looking at this. One, there is skilling to become an AI engineer, a developer, a coder, a programmer in Python and whatnot. That is for probably a few. But for everyone, tech and AI is now available for all of us. Why invest in NYANZA's tech future? That's why we are all here. I think we need to figure out a way to fund startups. Yesterday, I was at the Ken Invest Forum, and the main reason I was there is just to figure out, is there money? All these things require money, right? So after the nice conference like this is held, does everybody pack up and go home? Or are there really action items? So my challenge again to the organizers of the event is, what are the takeaways from this conference? If Pathways say that they're already skilling in AI, and they already have programs running with the government, what is required to plug that and bring that investment to NYANZA? So I think, I'll be sitting with the organizers, but I'm also urging anyone in the audience who has ideas of how do we bring these programs out to NYANZA. Funding is a big aspect of it. So we need to think through what that looks like. Developing infrastructure, R&D, partnerships. Again, just some of the ways that we can bring these solutions to NYANZA. Creating the right conditions for growth, as I'm wrapping up here. I think collaboration is big, is key. At Pathways, that's what we do. At my company, we do a lot of collaboration. So like I said, we're partnering with the government currently. We're partnering with KONZA. They already have labs across the country. We're not trying to build computer labs across the country. So I think we need to be thinking of how do we partner with the right stakeholders in different areas to bring out some of these solutions. As an example, I'm looking to partner with KCD, Kenya Development Corporation, KDC. And I was telling them they have an office in Kisumu. I was telling them we are happy to hold workshops for businesses on what tools they can use, tech tools, AI tools, to get information, just to empower business people on entrepreneurship and how best to leverage some of these tools. So I think partnerships, for me, is a key takeaway in terms of how we push some of these technologies to the region. And I think with that, I'm going to end my presentation, so it's not too long, and I'll pass it over back to the moderator. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Joel and Titi. Now we will turn over to our panelists, and I will give them an opportunity to present, introduce themselves as we start, and then we will start the panel session. The first panelist is Professor Silvana Sabeka. Kindly come over and introduce yourself briefly.
Thank you. Thank you very much, the moderator. The honorable guests who are here, esteemed panelists, and investors, and also the stakeholders who are present in this particular conference. Good morning. Good morning once again. My name is Professor Silvan Sabeka. I'm a professor. I'll talk in two categories. One, as somebody from academia, academic institutions, where we feel that through partnership with academic institutions, together with the industries, and investors, we can spur up the development within Nyanza as a region. Also, at the same time, I also want to inform you, as a board member of Kisumu City, that Kisumu has created an enabling environment for investments, huge investments. And we have a good plan within the city to ensure that all investors are given enabling environment for their investments. I'm happy the first presenter talked about policy issues. She's from the legal fraternity. Through the leadership of Professor Peter Nyang'nyong'o, we have created a proper framework, legal frameworks, to ensure that we promote investments in Kisumu. I also want to inform you that Kisumu as a city, we are moving towards a smart city, which means that all operations, all our activities in Kisumu will be tech-driven. And therefore, investors, you are encouraged to approach the city, come participate in the city agenda, to ensure that at least we can take this city to another level together. And indeed, you are aware that Kisumu is the third cleanest city in Africa, and second in East Africa, and first in Kenya. Can you clap for our city? And therefore, that tells you that we are really privy to how we can grow our investments in Kisumu City. So I also want to add my voice on adoption of ICT and technology-driven solutions to unlock new opportunities in Nyanza. Most of these issues that we've talked about, they are rather theoretical, but Kisumu, we want the practical aspect of it. And therefore, we want to invite the investors in the house to come and invest in Kisumu so that we can take this city to another level altogether. And I'm happy that when you're talking about investment, technology drives everything. And my brother Joel, you've talked about several activities that you have outside Kisumu. Come back home. Come back home. We need you. We need all those beautiful things you've talked about here at home, so that at the end of the day, we can take Kisumu to another level altogether. We are ready to have a discussion with you. I'm the chair in charge of urban planning, ICT infrastructure within the city, and also the urban planning. So just come, we'll have a discussion, and then we see how we can take Kisumu to another level altogether. Kisumu as a city, we are also interested in smart agriculture. You've talked about some of the solutions you're proposing. Let them not just be proposals. Bring them over here. If they require any form of discussions, we'll assure you that we will support that as a city to ensure that we take it all together. Then my colleagues from academia, this is the right time when we can now take out those that we are teaching in the lecture rooms outside there. And I want to inform the investors that we have over 13 universities, actually 5 local universities here in Nyanza. That is Jaramogi Ngodinga University, where I come from. Then we have Maseno, we have Tomboya, we have Rongo, but then still we have campuses of various universities, including University of Nairobi here within Kisumu. We can form academia industry partnerships so that we can ensure that we enhance product development. You can also have labor from our students. Of course, our students can get some attachment internship, and they can support your operations within your companies without any problem. I want to assure you that that is an area that we can think of. And universities, it is now also high time to outreach the people in the industry so that whatever we teach within the classes is in line with what is practiced outside there within the industry. So that is something that we need to look into as part of accelerating investments within Kisumu. Then, of course, there is the regional and global alliances. We cannot develop as NYANZA in silo. We need to partner. We need to put a lot of emphasis in partnerships. Like, for example, in less than 1 week, we had a very big function here in Kisumu when we launched a 120 billion project in developing the lakefront of Kisumu. Actually, it is constructing another city within the city, a lakefront city, the LV Marina project. So we want to encourage the investors in the house that if you have similar ideas or any idea that can spur up or accelerate investments within Kisumu, we are ready to accommodate those issues. In terms of policy and regulatory frameworks, I want to assure you that the city of Kisumu has clear, stable, and business-friendly ICT policy, which attracts long-term investment. And not only ICT policy alone, but basically investment policy to ensure that at least we provide that conducive environment for investment within this great city of Kisumu. Then, of course, one area that also we need to invest in is investment in renewable energy. The investors in the house, you know the erratic kind of power fluctuations that we have within Kisumu. And also towards moving to a clean, generating clean energy. That is also another area that you can invest within this region. Now, we believe that the future of NYANZA economy lies in ability to leverage in ICT for growth and development. I want to urge the investors in the house to see this region as an untapped tech frontier with immense potential. I also want to call upon the government to prioritize ICT-friendly policies and infrastructure. And I want to encourage my colleagues who are also from the academia and the private sectors to form meaningful partnerships that drives innovation. Together, through investments and collaborations, we can transform NYANZA into a vibrant digital economy that creates jobs, foster entrepreneurships, and enhance the quality of lives for millions. Let us seize this opportunity and build future today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Abeka, for encouraging us to come back home and for inviting our investors to make their investments and consider Kisumu City and NYANZA to be their center for investment. And our second panelist is Eric Nyadimo. We are going to invite him. He will speak a little bit about himself and make some few comments on the presentations that have been made so far. Welcome, Eric.
Thanks. So my name is Eric Nyadimo. I'm the president of the Institution of Surveyors of Kenya. I am a licensed surveyor, and I'm also the chair for the Lands and Physical Planning Sector Board within the Kenya Private Sector Alliance. I also manage a company, Orca Services Limited, which is a survey and mapping company based out in Nairobi. I'd like to thank my fellow speakers who have spoken to this topic on investment. But I want to take a different direction on the issue of investment. Coming from the built environment, I would definitely be more inclined to talk about land and looking at the investment from that particular perspective. I believe that we all know that land is the basis of all wealth creation. We live on it, we farm on it, we do things like land reclamation. And of course, if you analyze it deep scientifically, then you can say that you can be able to increase the land size, especially when you have things like the plate tectonics and stuff like that. But to the ordinary person, it becomes a finite resource. Now, when we look at this region, and we are talking about using land as a source of investment, we find that it is important that we secure the land tenure, both in the urban and the market centers, and generally for the private holdings. We find that, especially in the areas around Kisumu, that land ownership brings a lot of questions, and the title deeds or the documents that people hold really need to be verified. And we have seen in certain cases where people have invested or bought land, but then you find that you have challenges because that land is apparently owned by somebody else. And when you bought it, maybe you did not have the correct information. And in so doing, then you lose your investment, or you are tied to some legal battles which take a lot of other resources and time before you can actually be able to resolve that. So the need to be able to secure land tenure within this area is something that is paramount. One of the biggest challenges that we have is that the kind of boundaries that we have within most of the areas here are what we call the general boundaries. So they have not been fixed or mapped to the required standards. And therefore, such kind of boundaries lead to a lot of conflicts. And what we would say here is that there is need for the counties generally to be able to seek or develop partnerships with the national government and also with institutions like the one that I lead, the Institution of Surveyors of Kenya, to be able to facilitate the survey and titling of these lands so as to be able to provide security of tenure, to be able to stimulate investment, and so that the people can be able to use the land as a collateral for further development. I say that because a lot of land in the rural areas is tied to disputes and in certain cases uncompleted cases of succession. So there is need to be able to sensitize the public on what we call alternative justice systems so that some of these issues can actually be resolved. And there is also need to work with the Environment and Land Court to ensure that some of these issues can be resolved within a given time frame, just like we do with matters related to elections, where you have a time frame that is defined for a case to be able to be resolved. If we look at it, traditionally, of course, nobody really owned land. Land was to be used by the commons. And the clan had their own way of managing how that land was actually going to be used. But of course, with the British and colonialism coming in and starting off with the Crown Lands Ordinance, where the white man declared that all unoccupied land belonged to the Crown, and in the process they also took all the agriculturally productive lands, we started agitating for land ownership, which really was the basis through which we got our independence. One of the main issues there was individualization of the titles. And of course, we are still struggling with how to be able to deal with the aspects of community land and owning land as an individual. But either way, we have already taken that particular path. I don't think we are going back really to defining the land as being owned by communities, or even for those who actually have that community land ownership. They are still in the process of moving them to individual titles. So once we have made that decision that we are individualizing the titles, then we need to be able to put in place measures that would ensure that the ownership is actually protected. And one way of doing this is through the establishment of what we call land information management systems. I think you've heard of Ardhi Sasa in Nairobi, where you're digitizing the land and you're having the land in one repository through which people can be able to search and retrieve their records. And I know we are having challenges with the Ardhi Sasa platform because it is slower than we expected, and there are still certain other challenges. But generally, that is the direction to move, to be able to institutionalize digitization and digitalization of that particular resource so that we can have the land put in a better framework. And for the counties, you need to be able to charge rates or rent for the land that you actually own. And that means that you then need to establish what we call valuation roles. We have seen a number of counties working through this, but there are certain challenges because people are always opposed to the increase in the rates and so on and so forth, making it difficult for the counties to be able to raise their own source revenue. But there is need for the counties also to understand that it is not so much about increasing that rate to a particular value, but mainly how you can be able to collect the rent from the land that you actually own. And hence, the aspect of valuation roles become important, and we need to be able to sensitize the various assemblies on the need to understand the importance of the valuation roles, how they connect to the land information management systems, and why we need to be able to undertake these particular aspects. The other aspect is mapping. Our country, Kenya, is very poorly mapped. Most of the maps that we are using were done by the British. Some of them are as old as 1950. With the maps as old as that, it becomes very difficult for us to identify where the resources are. So we need to be able to put mapping on the forefront to ensure that we can be able to map all our resources so that we can be able to better plan and manage these resources. And hence, the various entities like the counties will be able to exploit, explore, and drive more investment coming in from the aspects of land. And within it, of course, we can still be able to make use of the technologies that my colleagues have been talking about here in terms of artificial intelligence, machine learning, through the subject or technology of remote sensing. We are able to do land use, land cover changes. We are able to understand what is going to happen within the land over a duration or period of time. And to summarize or to stop on this, the other aspect is, as I said in the beginning, that the land is a finite resource. In as much as we can expand horizontally, there is need for us now to explore expansion vertically. And I know we come from a culture where we have to put or build homes left, right, and center, to the extent that we are continuously reducing the amount of land that can be available for farming and agriculture. We need to be able to see whether there's a possibility to change that culture so that instead of expanding horizontally, we expand vertically so that we can be able to build houses, storied houses. And I can see my colleague, president from the Architectural Association, Florence, is here. I think this can also be able to give you a lot more work together with the engineers, because the resource that we have is not going to be enough. So we need to look for better ways in order to be able to manage that. So the aspect of culture needs to be brought in so that we can be able to deal with it. I submit.
Thank you very much, Eric Nyadimo. And at this point, I think we can open it to plenary and ask our delegates and stakeholders if you have any questions or comments on the presentations that have been made. Please, you are welcome to make them, and we will be happy to receive. And I believe the panelists and the presenters will also address any of your concerns or questions. Yes, please rise up and introduce yourself. I don't know whether we can have a mic. There's a lady on the third row.
Good morning. My name is Juno Molo. I'm basically born in Kisumu, brought and bred, but I do business in Nairobi. Having been brought up in Kisumu, I've been wondering about the investment climate. We've heard about IT, we've heard about land, But we do know that the economy of Kisumu runs around small-scale enterprises. For example, if you're in town, you find a lot of women selling clothes, and you also have fishermen, and you have kiosks as well. So my question is, apart from Kisumu and other Nyanza counties, given that I've also done a bit of consultancies on PPP, and there's a lot of misunderstanding. The counties do not understand how to relate in terms of PPPs, and also the stakeholders do not understand. So my question to you is the very basic structures. Oh, okay. This is new to me. Yeah, so my question is, do we have the basic structure for agreement for partnership that is very clear and space out terms and conditions? Because partnership do not exist without very clear touch points. And this goes to, I think, Janet Otero. The second one is to Onditi. Thanks very much. I'm one of those people who've been wondering how AI is going to help in terms of the businesses that we are doing. But my question again is, you've emphasized on the youth. As you can see, I'm not youthful, but I'm still active in possibly doing a lot of businesses around. So are there programs for reverse mentorship for older people? Because when you look at Kisumu, and the human resource say that there are many who are very lethargic. Why? Because there are no jobs, yeah? And they're not employed, or some of them have lost their jobs. And most so it's going to worsen, especially with this USID gag, the Trump thing. I'm seeing a lot of desperation coming up. So my question is, will AI help us solve that? Or will there be programs that are basically helping, like during the introduction of computers, I know there were very deliberate programs that were implemented to make sure that we're computer literate, and yes, we adapted. And lastly, to our professor, I'm a bit disturbed when we say that we are more aligned towards tech. I know outside we have tech cities. So are we saying that we want to turn Kisumu into a tech city, or are we saying that we want it to just be an enabler, so that we then also allow for other industries to thrive? Because we have this tendency as a government whereby all money will now be taken to tech, but then the other industries will suffer, and that will then again spiral to poverty. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Sorry.
very much. Not at all. Is there any other question or comment? Yes, sir. Kindly introduce yourself and then the name of the person to whom the question is going to be addressed.
Thank you very much. My name is Professor Justus Simiyu, Acting Director, University Industry Linkages, Masai Mara University. One is a comment, and both are directed to Professor Becker. One is on the academia industry linkages. We are a university slightly off the Lake Basin, but we're interested in working together on the academia industry linkages, so we'll follow up on that. The second one is closely related to my colleague, the concern on the investment. I have worked before with this county government on renewable energy, solar specifically. We worked on having a solar farm in one of the areas very close by here, but we hit a snag along the way when it reached a point of having the central government giving us authorization to proceed. So is there anything that has been done, or having clear structures on the public-private partnership in terms of renewable energy, specifically solar? Thank you very much.
Thank you. let's have one more question, and then we will allow our panelists to respond. Anyone else? If there are no questions at this point, perhaps those to whom questions were addressed kindly respond. Let's start with Janet, and then we go down the line.
Is this one? Okay, thank you. June, you're a very good student. I can see you are taking notes for everybody. So with PPPs, we have the PPP unit, or the directorate as it were, that is supposed to actually oversee and offer guidance on any PPP projects that are supposed to be implemented across the country. Now, the unique thing with PPPs is that it's not a one-size-fits-all. Different regions, different countries, and even the national government will require a PPP model for a specific purpose and to deliver a specific purpose, a specific service to the public. So what normally happens is before these are commenced, there's a feasibility study to be done, there's stakeholder engagements to be done, there's eventually there's contracts to be drafted, and there's agreements to be signed, especially around whether the project will be transferred back to the government or the partner will operate, and everything else related to PPPs. Now, it is at this point that as stakeholders, people need to put their voice forward and their concerns forward, because we find PPP models that are developed and are operated and are run without feedback from the members of the public who will have access or use it. And these members of the public who now access it are charged a token or a fee that be on services or products that become not fit for use. So in such a case, PPP models will not work if there's no public stakeholder, but also if the contracting arrangements that the national or local government enter into do not serve what it is intended for at that particular time. And you had correctly mentioned that Kisumu, NYANZA as it is, does not have big scale sort of industries to be involved in such. It's more smaller scale. But what can be done to improve, put all these small scale businesses together and improve on the services they are trying to unlock from the local government or the national government. And this will require a lot of conversations and championing, and also just being aware of what is happening and what you need from the government, and interrogating it, and having your interrogations be put part of the contract, of part of the arrangements that will come up with this PPP project.
Thank you, Janet. Professor.
Thank you.
Or you want to address? Yes, all right.
I think we finished, right? June. Yeah, all right. So thanks for your question, June. Yeah, and you're absolutely right. A lot of our programs, I know, focus on the youth. And I think we are leaving a very big demographic out. Now, there are a couple of channels that I know currently that could address other people who are not youth. I think youth ends at 35, right? So I know, for example, the Ajira program by KEPSA, right, has some programs around digital training and AI, for entrepreneurs. We are running a program currently. I mentioned the program with Microsoft at the TVET centers, but it's not specifically for young people. This one is for anyone who's taking part in the TVET programs. So again, you could be a grown-up or an older person taking part in a TVET program, and then you can take advantage of these programs. Now, that's a challenge to me, honestly, because you're right. 90% of our focus has always been youth, because of youth unemployment. But you're right, there are guys who are getting, phased out of work due to automation, due to even age, right? And you lose a job and you can't get back into your career, into getting another job. And so we have an ongoing discussion right now with the World Bank on trade specifically, and that's why I'm here for this event. And there's going to be some funding coming out around technology and AI and how that affects trade. And so I'll probably make it a point upon myself to not bias that discussion to youth, and just make sure, because if you're talking about trade and business, then it's going to be probably a bit of the older folks as opposed to probably the younger people. So that's a good challenge to me, but there are programs. One challenge I'll give you is go to ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT, are there programs in Kenya that are targeting training of technology and AI to, I don't know what the non-youth, what term it is for non-youth, to the older folks, right? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Quite a number of questions. I still want to respond in line with the two capacities as somebody from the academia and also from the city of Kisumu. I want to inform you that indeed I want to start with the last question from my friend from Masai Mara University. When it comes to academia industry linkage, we are open to it as the city of Kisumu, and I'm happy your Vice Chancellor has been very proactive in this, and there are quite a number of issues we are doing with her. And perhaps since Masai Mara is still within the Lake Region Economic Bloc, there's so much that we can do, and you are welcomed. You've talked about the investment in solar energy and some of the challenges you have in terms of permits and authorization. I want to tell you that as a city, we encourage investors to come and invest in the city. You are aware that recently, when the president was here last time, they went and launched some of the solar panels, solar project in Remba Island, Ringiti, Takawiri Islands. And this project is for the solar floating renewable source of energy within the lake to help the fisher folks, especially when they're going about their businesses. So we are very clear about that. We'll support that. Just come to the city and we'll see how we can support you to ensure that that can become a reality. And I also want to tell you that the CS Wandai is passionate about promoting investments in solar energy. So if you're interested in that, just come up with a proposal so that it can be approved, and then we see a way forward. Where the city can come in, we will ensure that that is promoted. Then there was also the issues of smart city. The concept of the smart city, especially in Kisumu. We want to be a leading city within this region that transforms all its services that are currently offered manually. We want to to the so that at the end of the day, ICT can be a good enabler. And we want to ensure that we are connected. Currently, there's a project on setting hotspots all over public places in Kisumu. It's a project that is going, and we want to ensure that once you just get into Kisumu City, Kisumu City becomes a hotspot in Wi-Fi. So that is something that will be encouraged. Then, of course, you also talked about the SMEs. The SMEs are the drivers of economy within NYANZA region, and there is no way we can do without them. One thing that we encourage right now is the use of ICT in conducting their daily activities. I'm happy nowadays you can do business from your bedroom. I've seen quite a number of apps that have been developed. You market your products online wherever you are. You even pay services online. So that is where we want to head to as a city. And it is going to be a model city within this region. Thank you. I also want to add my voice on the issues of land. You know, land is an emotive resource or an emotive issue anywhere. And when it comes to planning, and especially planning Kisumu as a city, This is an area that we have to move with, we have to make some radical changes to ensure that at least we plan Kisumu in the best way forward. We've developed some 7 growth points in Kisumu, where moving forward, there are some changes that will be there. Of course, there are some that will compulsory acquire to ensure that we transform Kisumu into another level together. Second, I also want to inform you that Kisumu as a city, we are digitizing our register. You know, that is also another emotive issue. I know my colleague is aware how it becomes very emotive when you are digitizing the land registers. We want a situation whereby development plans are approved online without any problem, because if it is manual, chances are very high that money can change hands all over, and development plans sometimes can be approved without following the due process. So that is why Kisumu as a city led by His Excellency the Governor, Nyong'o, we want to ensure that we take Kisumu to another level altogether. Though, of course, along the way, I know we will be stepping on some people's feet, but it's good as at now to feel some little pain, but to enjoy and celebrate in the coming years. Thank you.
Thank you very much, panelists. Are there any questions from the delegates? Any comments? So since there are no further questions and no comments, I think we can bring this session to an end. It is with a great humility and gratitude I thank everyone. You have a
Maybe
question?
before you bring it to an end, I also want to inform you that Kisumu as a city, we are also planning, we are engaging some investors on setting up a sky train. It is going to be one of its kind in Africa. This is a concept that when you're in developed nations, for example, like in China, the first monorail. So this time we're also planning to have one when you land in Kisumu airport, you just jump into a sky train, you move through the lake, you terminate the other side of the port. Then from there you can continue to Kondele, from Kondele to Riyadh, then Riyadh back to the airport. That will be the first phase and first of its kind. So investors who are also interested in such investments, feel free, come over. It is going to be one of its kind, and it will also promote that lacustrine economic. You know, Lake Victoria has been underutilized. So if you have also ideas, investors, and this goes to the investors in the house and friends of investors, ensure that at least come up with some ideas, come up with some concepts, how we can promote lacustrine economics within Lake Victoria. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your last remark. I wish we had representatives from other counties in Nyanza that could also pitch for other cities as you do, so that we understand what's the difference between Kisumu city and why is it taking off so far and with such spirit and enthusiasm, and what is happening in the compatriots in other Nyanza cities, and what can we do so that not only Kisumu shines and becomes the first, the second, and the third, but also all other Nyanza cities can catch up and become the first and the second regionally and perhaps even globally. So maybe at this point, if you have any knowledge in that, you can give us a little bit what's going on in Kisumu, not only Kisumu, but the compatriot cities of Kisumu in other counties of Nyanza.
Thank you very much, the moderator. One, Kisumu, we have the best governor. The governor who is proactive, the governor who is ready to appreciate and pick up any good idea, a workable idea. You sit down with him in the next 3 minutes, he will, within the first 3 minutes, he will know that this is a feasible idea or this idea cannot work. Then he will support. And you see, once we have the top organization support in a given area, then chances are very high that including issues to the legal frameworks, it will be very easy. But the moment the top leadership does not support us or does not understand the right concept that you've proposed in place, then chances are very high that there'll be a lot of frustrations. Then, of course, other issues to do with the corruption. I want to say that, and confidently say that Kisumu, led by our governor, I want to inform you that he has tried his level best to limit the level of corruption within Kisumu. And corruption is one area that normally drags investment and development. And investors normally shy away when they hear stories of kickbacks, they hear stories of corruptions, they hear stories of environments that is not friendly for businesses to thrive. But I want to tell you that we've created an enabling environment in Kisumu, and we want to urge the investors and would-be investors to troop into Kisumu so that we can take this great city to another level together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And then perhaps one more question on my part to Eric, now that he spoke about survey and mapping. How well is our Nyanza province mapped in terms of valuation of land? And is there a possibility that land in other counties is not as attractive as it is in Kisumu and environs, and therefore it might be so that not so many investors are interested in going there? Again, perhaps you may address it from the point of cost, and then electricity cost and infrastructure.
Hello. Okay. It's a loaded question. Mapping generally, the whole country is poor. Is not. I mean, we only have about 20 to 30% that is properly mapped. About 70 to 80% still needs work to be done. If we talk about urban centers, a good number of them have been mapped, but just mainly within the old urban areas. As the urban areas have been expanding, that hasn't been done very well, and there is still a lot of work that needs to be done on that. Of course, it's an exercise that requires investment by both the counties and the national government, and sometimes when it comes to approving the budgets, the county assemblies don't really understand because the people would more or less want to see a school or a road being built, but if you tell them that you're putting 200 or 300 million to do a map, they don't understand because they think that that is a bit more abstract. So that's why I was saying that we need to have a lot more sensitization, especially with the county assemblies, and also to look for external funding to be able to do that. And the same applies to the valuation roles. I'm sure people here experience the fact that if you are engaged in a transaction in land, you are asked to maybe pay some rates or rent. And sometimes there's a discussion on whether these should be extended to areas that are not within an urban area. So in terms of percentages, we're not doing very well on that. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done in that area. Moderator.
Thank you very much. In regard to the last comments, do you have any questions from yes, Jean?
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, so I learned from Homa Bay because I was in a stand that they're special economic zone and they're inviting investors to be able to partner with them. One of the things they're doing is surveys and also trying to see if, what they said that will be given free land, it will be surveyed, the whole processes. So I was hoping to also listen to that, because I know it's something that is being promoted in different counties. And how does it relate to partnership beyond just the ICT? But I know ICT will be part of it. Yeah.
Your question is to?
I think it can be any of the panelists. Like Kisumu, maybe they can respond if they have the same. But I know that other counties like Siaya and Homa Bay should have the same inspiration. We're interested in doing business in those zones, so would like to understand the processes, the partnership, the whole thing around it. Yeah.
Okay, maybe I can't speak directly for the counties. I mean, it would have been good where they're represented so that they can be able to say exactly what is happening within those special economic zones. But of course, these are zones that are being created.
Called formations underground. So let's not pretend here. We must give surveying and mapping its critical place and the adequate budgets to plan out this country well. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comment. It's very timely, and I think it is very appropriate. And perhaps Eric can tell us how agitations for better funding of survey and mapping can be done, and who is responsible for that. So that, from my understanding, it is basically a requirement of funding allocation towards that specific activity that can resolve or unlock part of this problem. Am I correct?
You're right. We have come up with a policy, although it is yet to see be passed, but it's a draft policy on survey and mapping, which has put it out clearly that the government needs to be able to invest or put resources, just like we do the national census, and we say we'll do census every 10 years, that we come up with a plan that says that we will do mapping every 5 years, because things change. So the maps will then be able to provide the information that the counties and any other entities can be able to use to do their mapping. So forming that critical information base that what like Daktari National Adero is saying would then be able to be used by other players within the sector to undertake many other things. And this applies even if you want to do the special economic zones and so on. If you want to do the transport networks, to do the sky train, like Prof is also talking about, all these things are connected. And in so doing, then it can be able to support that critical resource.
Thank you very much. Any more questions from delegates or remarks or comments? With no further questions, I would want to thank our presenters and our panelists for very insightful presentations and for responding to the questions. Thank you very much. It was very kind of you, and we have had very enriching and enlightening session. And I would like everyone to applaud and give them a good hand for the work they have done and educated us. And to the delegates and stakeholders, there is tea that is being served, so you can have tea, and then while we are waiting for the chief guest, perhaps you may want to visit the exhibitions. And I think with that, we can end our session, and perhaps the panelists may want to take a group photo. So thank you very much, everyone, for your participation. Without you, it wouldn't have been as successful as it is, for your questions and your comments. And of course, now we know that we can take investment into Kisumu and other counties at a different level, and we know how to agitate for it, and what kind of role of AI technology and PPPs have in it. So once again, have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you for being here and for your attendance and participation, and all the best. Thank you.